Welcome to Wander Paws Down Under. I'm Dan.
I'm Anita.
And together we're travelling around Australia with our dog Wally, our cat Paprika, our off-road caravan, and our trusty turtle Hilux.
And we're here to bring you some pet travelling tips on the road to, this stop was Kings Canyon, Yulara, which is the town near Ayers Rock, and Kata Tjuta.
Yeah, and before we delve into the real meat here, I just have to say this was probably the trickiest place we've been thus far on our travels from a pet perspective and managing the pets. It's a spectacular part of the world, don't get me wrong, we had an absolute ball, but we had to really use our imaginations to, get through that week that we were there.
Yeah, it's mostly trying to juggle the pets with the heat, and also being that you can't actually spend time with them because none of the sites that you're able to visit in these places are pet friendly. So you had to find new ways of sort of getting them out of the caravan, I guess, being able to take them to the toilet, but not also, causing any trouble, I guess.
Especially the cat, but more on that one later. So in the last episode we talked about our adventures at Red Bank Waterhole, which is just south of Alice Springs. We decided to go from Red Bank directly to Kings Canyon. So there's a couple of ways you can do that. One is you take a very long detour along a sealed road, which is long and arduous. The second option is to go down the Stewart Highway south of Alice Springs until you get to Ernest Giles Road, which is about a 100-kilometre stretch of unsealed, outback, corrugated, grade A paradise, according to the cat.
Yeah, the cat never really likes those kind of roads, but it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, look, 100 Ks, I think it took us just over an hour, maybe an hour and 15. Obviously had to air down our tyres, but that's part and parcel now of travelling in the outback. And, about half an hour later, along the bitumen path, we got to a place called Kings Creek Station, which seems to be a cattle station, I think, or a sheep station, or...
It is a cattle station.
It was a cattle station, yeah. But they also have camels, and having camels on site, they're very famous for their camel burgers.
Yeah, which is a little bit sad when you see the camels in real life and then you're like, then you're having a camel burger for lunch. Kind of feels a little bit wrong. Yeah.
To be honest, we like our burgers. We typically would have it once a fortnight, maybe even once a week back in Melbourne. But this one just didn't really seem to hit the spot. I don't know what it was about it. Just the vegetables were a little bit sad.
To be honest, if you think about where you are in the middle of the desert, it kind of makes sense that it's not the most freshest burger we've ever had. But look, it was a novelty. It was something that we wanted to tick off our list as it was sort of, a little famous stop along the way. The cool thing about the cattle station, though, is there was toilets, which was very much needed if you don't have toilets in your caravan like we don't, because there was, not really much in between the stops of where we'd been. And also, there was animals on site, like Daniel said. Camels, it was Wally's first time seeing a camel and his first time seeing a donkey. So you were allowed to take your dog not off leash, sorry. You were allowed to take your dog on the leash around the station, which was kind of fun for us. So it was a nice little stop on the way to Kings Canyon.
Yeah, and I mean, Wally always has seemed like a very sociable and socially aware sort of dog, but we just witnessed something that, I don't know, we haven't really seen before with him. Obviously he was surprised because he's never seen a camel. It probably looks like an alien to him. So he got a little bit excited and started barking at it and couldn't really understand what it was. But then we walked over to the donkey and the donkey actually walked over to us and wanted clearly to be friends.
Yeah, he seemed really intrigued by Wally. Like, he wanted to hang out with Wally. He walked up to Wally, was being really calm and really cute, putting his little nose through the fence, and Wally really blew it. He blew it.
Absolutely
he blew it. He kind of was like, oh, hi friend. And then he was like, "Meow, meow, 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 meow," and started barking everywhere. So I feel bad for Wally because he just didn't know how to behave in that scenario. But I think that the donkey dealt with it well.
The donkey dealt with it well by walking away and no longer looking in our direction.
Anyway, enough about donkeys.
Enough about donkeys, yeah. So, good little stopover on your way to Kings Canyon. They do also serve cold beer.
You can stay there too, by the way.
You can stay there. They've got fuel. It is expensive, the beer that is, but, whatever. We'd been off grid for a little while, so we thought we'd treat ourselves.
Yes, we're a bit thirsty.
On the way to Kings Canyon, we had another first.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what it was? What happened with the cat? It all started with
Daniel.
this really weird meow that we haven't heard before in our travels. It wasn't like a typical meow, meow, or even like a slightly distressed meow. It was like a "Aroo, aroo," and we were just like, what the hell's going on with that cat back there? It sounded like a kid crying.
We understand why in about the flash forward 10 minutes where the cat had actually pooped in his
Carrier.
So, unfortunately, with cats, you do not know when they need to go to the toilet. It is a little bit different to a dog. I mean, he was meowing, but we've said it before. Sometimes it's very hard to identify what kind of meows they are. We had never been asked by Paprika to go to do a poo before, so this was a first for us. Now I think we might have that meow locked in our heads.
Which is surprising because we've been on the road for well over a month now. I mean, how can the cat has never wanted to do that and let us know? I don't know. Anyway, so we had to stop on the side of the road, slow down from 100 k's an hour with our caravan connected, deal with the cat. Thankfully, he had pooped on a puppy pad that was in his
Yeah, we had
his
lined
carrier.
up his carrier with puppy pads just in case.
Yeah. So anyway, it was all over in about 5 minutes. So cat was a little bit traumatized. We were as well, but on we went to Kings Canyon, or as it's also known, Watarrka National Park.
Now, I have never been to Kings Canyon. Daniel had been there once before, and I will not lie that I was absolutely wowed by this place. Now, another problem. Again, not pet friendly. So what could we do? There is a little secret. So the car park itself at Kings Canyon is actually pet friendly. So you can park with your caravan in the car park and leave your pets either chained outside, inside, depending if you've got a running sort of circulation, depending on the weather, where you park, but you can actually leave your pets in the car park. Now, I think we were there on a late afternoon.
Yeah,
that was our
we got
decision.
there pretty late.
Yeah, we decided to get there, and unfortunately we were a bit scared because we didn't know if we were going to make the hike, because it is quite a decent hike.
Yeah, they say it's about 3 hours to do the 6 kilometre circuit loop at Kings Canyon.
So I think we were there about 4-ish, and the park closes somewhere near 6.
Well, it was more the sun goes down at 6.
Oh, that's what it was. Is the sun does obviously goes down. So we were a little bit cutting it fine, but we really didn't want to be there in the heat of the day, and we were driven along, the road for a while. So we thought we'd stop there, parked ourselves up in some nice shade, and we thought we'll take on the hike. We did keep Paprika in the caravan and Wally in the caravan on this occasion because it was under a tree. It was much cooler. We'd put up the roof, opened the windows, and there we go.
Yeah, and I was going to say before, they do have full pull-through bays, so you can
Yes.
actually stay hitched with your caravan. No need to unhitch. Nice and easy,
Yep.
plenty of room.
So we went and did the Kings Canyon walk, and we smashed it within 2 hours. I would have liked to have spent a bit more time, but when you've got pets, you just do things that you can do in the time that you can do them.
How good was it?
Oh, it was the best. So there is quite a steep incline to get up to the top of the canyon to do the rim walk. Totally worth it. Totally worth the pain in the thighs. You will love it. It was so beautiful. I hadn't seen anything like it, honestly. It was just... Yeah, this is probably one of my top places in Australia thus far. I absolutely was, mesmerised by its beauty. There is a cute little garden called the Garden of Eden. And it is an ancient waterhole. Men's business.
Men's business, yeah. So you can't swim in the waterhole because it's a sacred Aboriginal site of the Arente people, but you can marvel at it. And my God, the peace there, the serenity was fantastic. And all the more so because we had done it so late in the day, it didn't actually matter that it was school holidays. We had the place practically to ourselves.
Yeah.
So we were able to sit, meditate, connect with the land, hear the wind and the rustle of the trees, cool off a little bit because it was quite a warm afternoon.
Yeah, even at
And-
that time of the day, it was still hot.
Yeah.
So in that part of Australia, it is quite hot. So you have to sort of, with pets in particular, you have to go mornings and evenings. I guess it's the same for kids.
Yeah, and just as spectacular as I remember when I went with my dad back in 2004. This was one of the other places that I was dreaming to take you, the
Yeah.
other one being Palm
I
Valley,
loved
which we
it.
spoke about in the previous episode. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was very special to share that moment together.
Yeah. And we found a way to make it work for us with our pets.
Yeah. So in the area, you can also stay at a discovery park. What is it called? The Kings Canyon Discovery Resort. So that's located about 10 minutes away from Kings Canyon National Park. Just regular sort of caravan park with the restaurant on site. We chose not to stay there. We decided to stay at some free camping about
Yeah.
20 minutes further up the road along the what was it, Merindi
Never got it.
loop. And that turned out to be a good decision because it was, although the road was a little bit rough and corrugated to get in, we were able to stay at the top of a hilltop with some beautiful sights, beautiful sunrise, and being only 20 minutes away from Kings Canyon. All for free.
The only thing to keep in mind with that is that we were driving later in the evening. We did see a dingo actually on the road at that time, but it is dark and it started to get a little bit dark, so we just made it at the very sort of start of the sun gone down and all of this stuff. So it was, don't go too late where you can't drive, but we were okay. But yeah, that was just a Wikicamps find.
Yeah, we'll pop the link up now in the comments. And the next morning, I don't think we were done with Kings Canyon just yet, because there was still that creek walk.
Yeah, so when we were there, I was like, we did the rim walk, and Dan actually never did the creek walk with his dad last time he was there, so I said to him, why don't we do the creek walk? Which, again, we just did the same thing, didn't we? We just went as early as possible in the morning. I can't remember what time it opens, but it was at the gate opening. And we left Wally and Paprika. I think this walk's only about an hour or so it was a quick one.
Yeah.
And we did the rim walk, which was just gorgeous. There are trees, it's shaded, it's just got little pretty points to take photos. And we did that one really quickly, I think like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we got back on the road.
Yeah, super helpful information along the way. So there's boards that talk about the plants, the animals, even a few of the Arrente people's stories. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very, very nice way to connect to the land, and a lot more gentler for folk that maybe have mobility issues.
Yes.
Because obviously you can't climb big rocks as you do with the rim walk.
Yeah.
So this is a nice way to see the canyon from a different perspective. On to Yulara now. About 300 kilometres along a sealed road from Kings Canyon. We managed to smash it out in half a day.
I'll never forget the drive from Kings Canyon to Yulara and the first time that I got to see Ayers Rock or Uluru. That was just magical for me. Like, even if it was off in the distance.
Just kind of pops up on the horizon and you're like, ooh.
And there is, what's the other place that's before it?
Mount Connor.
So everyone gets confused thinking that Mount Connor is Uluru at the first, and then you kind of get close to it and you realise it's not, so you're kind of like, disappointed. But when you really see Uluru from the distance, I think I cried, actually. I might even have a video of myself crying. But that was just the most beautiful moment of, like my Australian experience, because you've lived here forever. There's songs written about it. There's stories told about it. And to see it for the first time was really magical. Yeah,
and it was actually so big. So much bigger than you think it is. Well, at least in my opinion, because when I went there in 2004 with Dad, I don't know, I've just got this memory of it being a certain size and being blown away when I arrived. And then when I arrived this time around, how many years later, 20 odd years later, the same thing happened. I was just like, wow, it's huge.
Yeah, from the distance it looks like this little speck, but once you get closer and closer you start to see how mighty it is.
Definitely. Accommodation options are limited in Yulara with pets. Hate to burst anyone's bubble, but you've got basically two options. Neither of which, one expensive one and one less than ideal one.
Yeah.
You've got basically a free campsite or two before Yulara, which you can find on Wikicamps. They're effectively just gravel pits with no facilities. You might get a bin if you're lucky, but I don't even remember that being there.
And you do have to be careful of dingoes, because there are dingoes.
Yep. We chose not to stay in those sites, and in hindsight, it was probably a good decision in a few ways. Well, one, you feel a lot safer because you're not randomly in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and obviously leaving the pets at such quite a big distance would have been quite concerning for us, because it was hot still in the days, most days.
Yeah, and two is you just want to be close to some facilities, particularly if you've been in the desert for a while and you need to do some washing or just go to a bar or go to a shop. It's just a lot easier being in a particular location, in our opinion. So this one we chose to pay.
Yulara is a bit of a strange place. It's definitely, look, you can understand parts of it and elements, but it is in the middle of nowhere. It is right next to Ayers Rock. There's nothing else really to do other than Ayers Rock, Uluru and Kata Tjuta. So there's nothing else in the area. You can understand sort of why it exists the way it does, but it is overpriced. It is a little bit of a weird, quirky resort that you kind of, it doesn't have much of a vibe about it.
It's not so much a resort, more just a campground.
No. But like the place,
Oh,
like
the whole
of
Yulara.
Yulara,
Yeah.
It is. There is an IGA. There's a post office. There's a couple of shops. There's different parts of the resort.
There's a Shell service station.
Yeah, there's a service station. There's a water fill up, dump points. But like the actual town of Yulara, it's just a little bit odd, I found.
Yeah, and an example of how odd it is, you're allowed to bring a dog into the Ayers Rock Resort Campground.
Yes.
Which is the only place where you are allowed dogs. But you can't take the dog on any walks anywhere outside of the campground, including on the actual road itself. Like, you can't walk to the shops with your doggo and just leave them outside. That's, I think, prohibited.
Yeah, absolutely.
And cats altogether are prohibited.
Absolutely.
Point blank. Which I don't really understand why. I guess they're having feral cat issues and escapees, and they do have an impact on the natural environment. But if your cat is secured inside, a caravan full time, I don't know. I'm just not sure what the issue was.
Yeah, it was odd. And look, the Ayers Rock Campground itself, it was very expensive, but again, you can understand, it's a national park, and there's only one place that you can camp there with facilities. The facilities themselves, they were clean, they were nice enough, a lot of people there, so we found that really beneficial for our time in Uluru, because there are other people there in the same situation as us. So this came in handy when we decided we wanted to go and visit Uluru. People with dogs in the same situation as other people with dogs is very good timing for us. It's a good place to be. There's only one pet sitter in Yulara, and it is extremely overpriced.
If you can get in.
If you can get in, yeah. So it's pretty much, there's this person there that has a front yard that's secured. You drop your pet off there for like, I don't know, like $80 to $100 a day. And that's per pet. So you can only imagine how much money that person's making. But there's one pet sitter, and it is booked out quite in advance. So what we had opted to do is, we were just so lucky that we parked up next door neighbours who had a little staffy that got along with Wally, so we could take turns at visiting the park early in the mornings.
Yeah, a bit of tag teaming, always a good option, and also a free option, which is mutually beneficial as long as you obviously return the favour.
Absolutely.
So that was just Wally. He who we will not name
was not with us
and was not in the caravan at any point, because cats are prohibited from the Ayers Rock Campground.
Yes, so he did not exist.
He just wasn't there.
So we won't talk about he who should not be named.
But what we can talk about is how spectacular those walks are.
Absolutely.
Around Uluru, Kata Tjuta, the energy. I think there's probably plenty of reviews from various people of all walks of life about those walks and those sort of experiences. We're not going to delve into too much detail here, other than, wow.
I cried again. It is beautiful. It's well worth doing the sunset over Uluru, where you just park up your car and just watch the sun go down, see the different colours and the lights. And again, if you've got your pets with you and you're not as lucky as us to have someone park next to you that you can sort of do a tag team with your pets, there is also the option of, if you go early in the morning and you go later in the evenings, you should be able to sort of go out to Uluru, maybe not to Kata Tjuta, but to Uluru safely for a couple of hours in the morning or the afternoon, because it's not too far from the campground.
Yeah, provided it's a cool day, of course.
Yeah, cool. Oh, of course, yeah.
Well, we were there in winter, so it was all good.
It was good. And the other way that we were able to visit Kata Tjuta, or the Olgas, was Daniel has actually been to the park before, so he let me go firstly on my own, and I went to the Olgas while he watched the the dog. While he watched the dog. And I went and did the hike myself, and then we were able to sort of swap and do those things. So that was a really nice way of doing it as well. It gave me a little bit of girl time, alone time. The hike at Kata Tjuta is totally safe for someone to do on their own. And I also made it this is just a word of, warnings or advice for anybody doing a hike on their own. I just made sure I introduced myself to everybody that I walked past to, past in case, something did happen to me, then multiple people would have seen me. So I did go on the hike at the time of the day where I could say hello to multiple people so that people knew I was there.
Yeah, no, the smile on your face when you came back, it was quite special.
Yeah, I had the best time. I found, like, if I was to word everything into like one word, I found Uluru to be very, very deep and magical, whereas I found Kata Tjuta to be fun and, like
lighthearted,
playful. Yeah, so I loved it. I had a great time, and the pets were safe.
Definitely.
I think they were safe in your hands.
Yeah, they're all right. They survived.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it. No need to compromise if you go to Central Australia and you're travelling with pets. There are ways of doing it. We've shown you how. Would we do it again? I would say yes, given how spectacular these places are. Is it easy? No, it's not.
Would you bring your pets if you were just going to these parts of Australia? I would probably say you don't need to bring them. Like, there's nothing for them in, like, Uluru, Kings Canyon, like all of those parts between Central Australia. I wouldn't say it's much to do with your pets there. So if you're opting, to fly over and just go without them, it might be a better option for you, but it is possible if it is part of a larger journey for you.
Speaking of which, the next episode we're going to bring you is the Great Central Road, which is quite a famous and well-known outback track that goes for 1,200 kilometres from practically Uluru to...
I think you'll hear
deep
Paprika's
in Western Australia.
deep depression stories after that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments, what you'd like us to talk about more, what you didn't like. All's game. Till next time,
See you next time.
we are Wonder Paws.
Bye.
Bye.